All right, so folks, now we're going to move into opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Good morning. It is illegal to drive in the state of Michigan when you are drunk. It is illegal to drive in the state of Michigan when you have a blood alcohol level greater than 0.08. And it is illegal to operate a motor vehicle while having an open bottle of alcohol in the passenger compartment of the vehicle. Now, it's the evening of October 5th, 2023, here in the city of Romulus, just before midnight. City of Romulus gets a call that there's a dispatch to an accident that happened on Van Born Road near Cheney. Police officers, including Officer Grishover, show up at the scene with two vehicles on the side of the road after having been in an accident. They interview the individuals there. They encounter an person by the name of Mr. Dwayne Lee, who's operating one of the crashed vehicles with an airbag deployed. Who's there? There are no field sobriety tests that are performed at the scene because Mr. Lee indicates that he needs some medical attention. An ambulance is there. He's brought to the police station. At the time, at the scene, an open bottle of tequila is found in the passenger compartment of the vehicle. And while at the hospital, he is interviewed and admits to drinking one Corona beer that evening. That's what he admits. At that point in time, he's offered to do a breathalyzer test, data master. He refuses. And at that point in time, the procedure is for the police to go get a search warrant to draw blood. The blood is drawn at the hospital that evening and then sent to the state lab for testing. Tests come back greater than 0.01. Mr. Lee was operating while intoxicated that evening. And we are here because he was operating while intoxicated. Now, what is the defense going to say? I'm not sure. As the judge explained, you don't get to really hear too much other than some banter or some conversation. He may say that he wasn't drinking that night. But the facts are that the blood work comes back, there's an open bottle of tequila, and he admits to drinking beer that night. He may say that there's something wrong with the testing of the procedure. However, you were there, the testimony of the officers, the state lab person, and the technician from the hospital who's here to describe how the procedure happens for the drawing of blood. And he may indicate that he was set up somehow that night, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever, since there's no, you don't know Mr. Lee, there's no reason to set him up, respond to an accident that evening. So that's why. At the end of the proofs in this case, I believe you will come to a conviction on operating while intoxicated and open intoxicant of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Mr. Lee, now or later? It's up to you. It's up to you. Okay, you can take the podium if you would.
Morning, members of the jury. First off, I just want to say that I'm not trying to say that the police officers are trying to set me up. I'm simply saying that there was some kind of mishandling with testing or whatever took place. There was mishandling in the process of it, and we'll get to the bottom of that. As far as the bottle, I didn't have that bottle. I told them what I drank earlier that day. I didn't even have it in my car. There's a lot of things that took place during that accident before they even got there. There was a lot of time that went by before they even got there between me and the driver. There was a lot of interaction. There was a lot of argument, and I'm going to get into that. But not saying the officer's trying to set me up. I'm just saying that whatever took place in between that, it had something to do with everything I said here. Good morning, members of the jury. I truly appreciate your service. I had time. I didn't think I would be able to interview anybody, but I don't know much about you all. So I don't have any questions, any idea what you know about the law. I don't know what you know about scientific aspects of this case, or whether you know how important proper handling of blood and lack of mistakes or bad intentions made during the blood taking test process, the investigative or report writing process are important. I also don't have any idea if you hold any form of bias. I wrote this before I interviewed you all. I also don't know if I hold or if you all hold any bias, whether towards the police or towards drunk drivers. However, I will beg of you and hope that you be advised and mindful of the rights of myself as a defendant while approaching this situation with an impartial mindset. My name is Dwayne Lee. I am defending myself against the allegement of DUI made against me in these proceedings. I am standing alone without counsel, not by choice. Had it been my choice, I wouldn't have sat in front of as many attorneys as I did. The reason they all quit on me is because over the course of almost 2 years, they were trying to get me to take a plea deal. I wouldn't just plead guilty. I'm not pleading guilty to those crimes or any lesser crimes because I'm simply not guilty. I am not guilty of DUI or the alleged charge of having the bottle that the officers say they found in that vehicle that night. I just received that picture. And I've been saying that since the first night I was questioned. Even though I have gone through a lengthy process and been making it to every court date, exception of being late to one, I have been given a time limit to speak, and I want to make all my points, but I don't want to hold up any of your time. So I'm saying everything. I'm hoping that everything is understandable, despite the fact that I may be seeming to blow through. I just wrote this last night because I didn't know if I was scheduled for another trial before it got postponed. The facts of that night, from my view, are both simple and complex at the same time. They're simple in the aspect of my innocence. I didn't drink any alcoholic drinks that night, and I didn't cause that accident. There was absolutely nothing wrong with me before that accident and or my injuries. I have scars from my injuries. I have pictures of my injuries also. I have scars that I hit my head, and I have my ribs were injured as well. There was nothing wrong with me before the accident or my injuries. And even after the accident, I was physically capable, just in pain and a little groggy from not alcohol or drugs, but from injuries. Simple. Complexity comes in at the fact that I still don't know if that guy crashed into me on purpose or if he was high or drunk or anything himself. I also don't to this day know exactly who that guy is fully, but he claims to, despite the fact that he recognized me, he doesn't know me or my then thought to be mother of my child, I thought was mine. That's context of the video, which from what I understand, we're not going to be able to watch the whole video. There's a lot of things in the video I would have thought that were important, but prosecution doesn't think it's important. He's going to dissect some things out that he thinks is important in his aspect. But I wasn't given evidence. I obviously don't have a lawyer. No lawyer wanted to really help me through this. They just
Subject to one state, so in the state, not being.
and then they say that they gave me evidence. I never was given they said they would send the blood to another lab to get it retested. I wanted it to get it retested. The video, I wanted the video for myself so I can present it to the court. Now I'm hearing that they're not going to present all the video. But he said he gave me nothing but reports from the officers. That's only what the officers say against me. It's nothing that I can use for myself. It's not everything against me that I can use in entirety. I also don't know to this day if this guy fooled. If he knows he recognized me, but he said he doesn't know me or the mother of my child. I thought was mine. He didn't know what happened or how he crashed into me. because he ran me further onto the grass when I tried to swerve to the right to get out of his way. And that's what you'll see in the video as well. I'm coming down this way. He's coming down this way. He knocked me this way. We're in this direction. If I went in the direction that it says in the crash report, we would be in this direction. But we weren't. We were in this direction. So that's part of what I'm going to ask the officer as well.
Mr. Lee, 5-minute warning.
Okay. He then started to say somehow, however, that changed from the time his friend, just going past exchanging me info. He wanted me to leave without exchanging info at first, and I told him to call my phone because I couldn't find it. But I knew once he called me, I could exchange info through phone and call the police. He kept saying he doesn't want to call the police. He doesn't want to call the police. All of that changed from the time that his friend came up until the police came. Then he started saying that somehow I hit him, which is impossible. He said that he was injured. He knew that he saw that there was a liquor bottle in my car, which he couldn't have. He went in his car. That's another thing that's on the video too. When we got into the accident, we both got out of our cars, and I looked at his car. That's on the video. I said, I'm looking at his car. I said, are there kids in your car? I'm nervous. I'm sorry. I've never done this before. I've never represented myself in court by myself. Just a little nervous. That's all. I'm a little flustered. But I got out of my car. I looked at his car. He looked at my car. He was doing all that. For a long course of time, I fainted. And I woke up and he had friends. He had people that he had called there. The other complexity is the other complexity I said, I don't know if I went past. The other complexity is that I get accused of doing something alcohol related while I'm not drinking alcohol. One of the officers said they found a tequila bottle in my car, and he asked me, was it mine? I said no. He asked had I drank liquor, beer, or wine. And that's the crazy thing. I drink from time to time non-alcoholic Heineken beer, non-alcoholic Coronas. The beer I drank way earlier that day was a non-alcoholic Corona. It has a light blue label on the bottom. The regular Corona has a dark blue label on the bottom. I know what that is, but I just had to let you all know that. The officer said he didn't believe that it was a non-alcoholic beer, which is not him, it was another officer. He got there later. He didn't believe that it was non-alcoholic beer. But because I was a little disoriented, that I was intoxicated, and they reconstructed the whole accident contrary to what really happened. However, I didn't cause the accident. There is a such thing as non-alcoholic beer, and I had injuries which would lead to disorientation. I don't know why they chose to believe them or why they chose to say certain things in that were not true. I just looked at it like the driver got away with blaming that accident on an injured, disoriented person because the officers came and did a poor job of really investigating and did a horrible job handling every aspect of this case. And once again, I will line up my questioning and closing statements that the lawyer advised me that I will be able to do in a way that will illustrate these mishandlements or mistakes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Greco, witness?
Yes, Your Honor. For the first witness, the prosecution calls Officer River Grishaber.
Is it Grishaber or Grishaber? Shaber, long A. Swear affirm, tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Have a seat. Settle in, state your name, spell your last for the record, please.
Hello, I'm Officer Shaver, Government Police Department. R-I-S-H-A-B-E-R.
Thank you. Proceed, Mr. Greco.
Officer, please state your name for the record. Lieutenant.
Shaver.
And are you currently employed?
And
And where are you currently employed?
The Orleans Police Department,
And what is your position of employment?
I'm a boss.
Were you working on the evening of October 5th, 2023?
Yes,
And you recall being called to a scene of an accident?
yes.
Okay, approximately what time?
11:41.
And what do you recall about that evening? How did you get there? What led us there?
I remember showing up to a accident at Van Born and Chamberlain Road, it was east of Chamberlain. When I arrived, I was driving both vehicles, they were in the ambulance already. I actually located Mr. Lee still in his vehicle, driver's seat. I had him step out, just because I had seen that the airbags had deployed. He went to deploy. Got him out of the vehicle, he requested medical attention. Put him to the ambulance. See, that was.
And that was Van Born and Chamberlain here in Romulus, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Did you, okay, once you had interaction with him, you got out of the car, you wanted to get cared for by EMTs, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what kind of vehicle was he driving?
Driving a Ford Explorer. Black and belt.
Okay. And where were the cars positioned with respect to roadway and?
Both vehicles were actually positioned on the south side of Van Born Road in the grass, facing the same direction.
Were you able to speak with Mr. Lee regarding about his version of events, about what happened?
I do not recall speaking with him in the events on scene. Later at the hospitals where I remember the chain of events first in.
And with respect to the issues while we're here today, the cause of the accident or who caused it, whether it was Mr. Lee or the other driver of the vehicle, is neither here nor there, correct?
Correct.
Did you determine that Mr. Lee, Mr. Lee, you indicated was in the driver's seat, correct?
Correct.
Either at the scene or you indicated at the hospital. Did he indicate that he was the operator of that vehicle?
He actually indicated that he was operating the vehicle on scene.
On the scene.
Correct.
And is Mr. Dwayne Lee the person you encountered in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Okay, where is he?
He's sitting right there with a black jacket.
Notice for the record.
All right, describe if you can for the jury your interaction with Mr. Lee. You indicated a little bit, you got him out of the car, brought him to, what else happened?
I showed up to the scene and trying to figure out if there's still occupants of the vehicle. My encounter with Mr. Lee and then step out of the vehicle. He said airbags were deployed and I didn't want a part of the airbag to deploy. Had him step out of the vehicle, he stated to me that he was driving the vehicle, he was also in the driver's seat. And I asked him if he needed medical attention, he did due to his wrist. We walked him over to the ambulance and then from there, I don't recall having further contact with him on the scene. He was transported to Beaumont Wayne Hospital.
Are you able to describe his demeanor when you interacted with him at the scene?
So there was on scene, when I actually had to step out of the vehicle. He was kind of slow to answer my questions. And then as far as what I observed or noticed while I was on the scene, there was an odor of intoxicants coming from him as well as inside the vehicle. No slurred speech or anything, or sorry, no blurred eyes or nothing like that, just slurred speech when trying to talk with him.
Was there any evidence of alcohol within Mr. Lee's vehicle that evening?
Yes,
And what?
another officer doing the search of the vehicle located in the passenger side of the vehicle at liquor bottle.
Okay, you indicated another officer found it, but you saw it that night?
Correct.
I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibit Number 1. Ask you to take a moment, look at that for a moment. All right, what is Exhibit Number 1?
Exhibit number 1 is the liquor bottle that was found on the passenger side of the vehicle, Mr. Lee's vehicle.
Okay, it looks like a photograph of it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you take this photograph?
I did.
Okay, and where was it taken of? Where was it taken?
I believe on the hood of Mr. Lee's vehicle.
And does this photo accurately depict what is depicted in the photograph from that evening?
Yes.
I would like to move for admission of plaintiff's exhibit or prosecution's exhibit number 1.
Mr. Lee, any objection to that evidence being admitted? Okay, that would go to the weight of the evidence. I'll admit it, and then you can certainly make that argument. Go ahead, Mr. Greco.
All right. Were you able to perform any field sobriety tests on Mr.
No,
That because you requested the medical attention?
correct,
At some point, you left the scene of the accident, correct?
correct.
Was Mr. Lee transported to the hospital?
Well, not one hospital.
Walmart Wayne Hospital. Did you go there?
It,
Okay, when you went to the hospital, were you with him?
I was with another officer, yeah.
All right, so when you went to the hospital, what's the next thing that happened?
We actually went and spoke with Mr. Lee, trying to get more, of the circumstances of what took place. He was interviewed. After his interview, I actually left the scene, Officer Cat stayed on scene and, stood by with Mr. Lee while I went to the police station to obtain a search warrant. The search warrant was for him refusing to, draw blood for us for the, incident.
Or refusing to consent to draw blood?
Correct.
Okay. So at some point in time, you or Officer Cat asked him if he would consent to a blood draw, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so he denied that, and then the procedure is to get a search warrant?
Correct.
Okay, and that's why you're saying you left the hospital to go get that, correct?
Correct.
Did he make any statements that you recall regarding any alcohol used by him that evening?
Again, Officer Cat, he was the officer who was questioning Mr. Lee at the hospital. I was there sitting by, I believe, or sorry, I don't believe, I know, Mr. Lee stated that he had earlier in the day, one drink, which was a Corona. That was it.
During your interaction with Mr. Lee that evening at the hospital, did you have on your body worn camera?
Yes,
Your Honor, this time, let it play. It's actually a 9-minute video of the body worn cam. Officer, are you able to see the beginning of the video on your screen there?
yes,
Okay. And you had indicated there's silence right now because you don't have the audio on, correct?
correct. I believe 30 seconds after. Turn your video footage on. That's what the video is.
Okay. And this what we're seeing right now is the body worn camera on your chest position, and that's Officer Paquette in front of you.
Correct.
So he indicated he was coming from, he got off work at 12:30. And at this point in time, it's just after midnight on December 6th, correct?
Correct.
And you had responded to the scene on October 5th at 11.
Correct.
All right.
11:41.
11:41. Again, just so we can confirm what we're hearing now, you had testified earlier that he indicated that he had one beer, correct?
Correct.
And that's what we just heard as admission on video, correct?
Correct.
And he indicated it was a Corona beer.
Correct.
Did he indicate that it was a non-alcoholic?
You did not.
Objection.
Can you pause the video? What's your objection, sir?
He clearly just asked me, was it, did I have the liquor? I said no. And I told the other officer.
All right, so hold on. When you make an objection, it's got to be a legal objection. So you can object because it's not relevant. You can object because it's hearsay evidence. There are specific reasons you can object. So what I heard is he said no hard liquor, and you said yes, no hard liquor.
Well, yeah, that's
that
what
what
I was telling him,
Okay,
yes.
all
I
right,
didn't have no alcohol, period.
okay, but, all right, so once again, that's to the weight of the evidence. You can argue that what words were spoken means something different than what the prosecutor is arguing they mean. You understand that?
Okay, well,
Yes or no? Do you understand that? If you no, and I'll try to explain it.
yes, I know what you're saying.
Okay, so hold on. Okay. Objecting because you disagree is not a valid objection. You have to object for a legal reason. Okay? You can make your argument. You can cross-examine him about exactly what was said, what the question was and how you answered. You can do all that through cross-examination. But I'm going to overrule your objection because I don't think it's a legal objection. You understand my ruling?
Wait, you're saying that I can only do I'm learning as I go, as I was.
But that's not my fault. My job is not to put you in law school today. My job is to handle the trial. I'm explaining to you that objection, you don't object just because you disagree. There's got to be a legal basis for the objection. Your disagreement can come in your questioning of the officer and in your own testimony or your own witnesses or your closing statement. That's where you can disagree. Understood? All right, Mr. Greco, continue.
So at this point in time, did you consider that a refusal? At this point in time, I'm speaking with you're talking about what you need to do next.
Correct.
Okay, what is it?
I need to go back to the routes.
Officer, we just watched a video that's approximately 9-10 minutes long. Was that your body camera video from that night of the theft, or actually the early morning hours of October 6th?
It was.
Was Mr. Lee on video in the hospital bed?
Yes.
And is what is shown on video accurately depict what occurred that night with you, Officer Beckett, and the defendant at the hospital?
It does.
Your Honor, I'd like to move for admission of exhibit number 2, the video.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, any objections to that segment of the video coming in?
Well, as far as what was just watched,
Yes. Any objections to admission of that video, just like we admitted the photograph?
I mean, yeah, but yeah, of course.
Of course we can.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think I already asked you this, but yeah, we saw you leaving the hospital, correct?
Correct.
You indicated you went to the police department to fill out the necessary paperwork to get a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
All right, what does that mean? What do you do?
So you go back to your station. I go back obviously to the hospital department. I did the necessary work to obtain a search warrant. I have to contact a magistrate, contacted Magistrate Alan Inman. Advised him of the circumstances of what we had. He approved of the search warrant. At that point in time, I obtained a blood kit from the police department. It's sealed, and I take that blood kit to the hospital in the city for the.
Okay, so you're saying, so you get the search warrant, once you get that, this is gonna be search warrant to draw someone's blood. You're saying you stop by, there is a kit, like a blood draw kit that comes in a box.
Correct.
Sealed, and
Sealed. Correct.
once you get the kit, you go back to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
All right, what's the next thing? What's the procedure on how this happens?
You take the blood kit to somebody who is approved at the hospital to obtain a blood draw, phlebotomist or tech. They open up the kit in front of you, and when they open up the kit, there's paperwork they have to fill out, there's paperwork you have to fill out as the officer. It contains 2 vials, empty vials, and then they obtain his blood, the street's blood, carefully placing each vial back into the box with the necessary paperwork. There's also a label that is on the blood that indicates the time of each blood draw. Then the box gets sealed up with the necessary paperwork, sealed in front of myself, and I do not recall if I was there during the sealing, but I was the officer who provided the paperwork and watched the blood draw take place.
And with you and the tech being present as well.
Correct.
Now, all the things that you just described occurred in this case?
Correct.
Did you follow the procedures accurately and correctly to obtain the blood in this case?
I did.
And then what do you do with the kit?
Once the kit is sealed by the phlebotomist, you take that kit that is sealed back to the Rounds Police Station, and it goes out to, I believe, MSP for the lab results.
That's being sent to the MSP, Michigan State Police Forensic Lab, correct?
Correct.
And at that point in time, that evening, did that essentially conclude your involvement in this case until today?
It did.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Lee, do you have any questions for this officer?
You said that you gave the blood to the MSP lab.
So when you take the blood kit, the sealed blood kit, back to the Rounds Police Department, it goes out into mail, essentially, it is sent to the blood lab.
Because it says here that the day that the Department of State lab received this blood was on October the 11th. I don't know if the jury gets or is able to see them, but this situation happened on the 5th of October. The lab received it on the 11th of October. So did you have that blood in your police department or precinct until then, or how did that?
So we have a mailbox that we place all of our blood kits. The blood kit is placed into that mailbox. From there, I don't have contact with the blood kit. I'm assuming that it goes to straight from the mailbox to the mail and then sent out to the industry.
The mailbox, does that mailbox have multiple blood samples, or is that just my blood sample singular and put in that mailbox?
So again, all of our blood kits, that's where they go. I don't know if during this, there was other blood kits there. It's that happened 2 years ago, so I don't recall on that part, but that's where we place all of our blood kits. All of our blood kits, do provide your name on the blood kit, and again, they are all sealed.
They are still, you weren't there as a witness to see.
I was, but the I was sealed.
So that you said that, Officer Paquette was there for the city, which you weren't.
No, I was there because I was the officer that provided the paperwork. I was the officer that watched the bottom and draw your blood. Officer, again, I do not recall the witness the kit gets sealed, but I did witness the kit gets sealed.
Okay. And you are aware that you were under oath today.
Correct.
Okay. Just a question that we were talking about. Where are you employed?
Browns Police Department.
Okay. How long have you been employed there?
I've been with Browns Police Department for 2 years, and I have, or sorry, 2.5 years. And I have prior police experience elsewhere.
Okay. So would you say that you are good at your profession?
I would say that I am a law enforcement officer who is still learning.
Right? Do you think that you have completed the training needed to perform your duties properly and efficiently as an officer?
I do.
Have you had training on making arrests of criminals doing so properly? Have you had training on making arrests of criminals? Is that involved in your training as an officer?
Correct.
Okay. Have you had training handling injured criminals?
Correct.
Are you aware of the term the totality of the circumstances?
I am.
What? Excuse that question. I'm sorry. Okay. 2. Have you been taught about Miranda warnings in training?
Correct.
And what is the Miranda warning from your announcement?
Well, essentially, so I have a card actually in the pocket of the street. But essentially, any work before advising you that you are, or after advising you that you are under arrest. Everything that you we advise you that you are we would actually their viewers.
Well, yeah, that wasn't the reason for the question. But I was going somewhere else with this. Have you been trained to thoroughly observe and investigate the scenes of crimes? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then I go back to the totality of the circumstances. What is your assessment of the term the totality of the circumstances?
In your case,
Yeah.
in your case, it was the odor of intoxicants from your vehicle. It was the bottle that was in the passenger side of the vehicle. It was your admission of you drinking a Corona earlier in the day. Those are the totality of the circumstances.
Okay. Just admissions. Okay, so the totality of, that's the full totality of.
Well, it's an accident as well.
Oh,
It's a severe accident causing injuries.
okay, when you thoroughly investigate and observe the scene of crimes, are you trained to write a report of what you saw under oath?
Yes,
Directly to the night of October the 5th, where, and you were working, and did you, would you, on October the 5th, would you say, because it was to you, would you say that your training and skill level was fairly the same?
I would say that it is approved. You're asking, has it approved from 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yes,
Where would you say, good, could you give a good, fair, or, poor level at that time?
of your incident.
Yes.
So again, I currently have 2.5 years with the Rockville Police Department, but I worked in Detroit for a couple of years as well. And during my time in Detroit, vehicle accidents pertaining to your case.
Okay.
So I do feel that I to handle your situation.
Right, in writing reports, you, once again, are under oath when writing these reports, and you're writing everything after making a thorough investigation.
Correct.
Would it be fair to say that at the night of October 5th, were you directed to the accident involving myself, the defendant, at the location in question?
I was dispatched to your location, correct?
Okay. And how were you made aware of this accident?
I was aware of a 2-vehicle motor accident at the intersection of Van Born and Shingle.
Well, okay, well, who were you made aware by?
The run was department dispatched. I believe it was a passerby call, stating that there was a vehicle accident at the intersection.
Okay. And were you told by this person when exactly this accident took place, time-wise?
I was not advised by the passerby when the accident took place. I'm not sure if the passerby continued driving or if they had stopped. That's unknown. However, once we're dispatched to the location, obviously we show up to the location. I believe our dispatch time was 11:41 p.m.
Did I give a statement as to when this accident took place?
Time-wise, no.
So would it be fair to say that you don't know when the accident took place?
I know when I was dispatched to your, I don't know if it happened 10, 15, 20 minutes prior to being dispatched. I don't know the time of the call, I just know dispatch.
So once again, if you only know the time that the call was made, but you don't know if the person passed by, kept going, you don't know exactly time-wise when that accident took place, am I correct?
Correct.
Continue on questions from here, I'm sorry. Were you made aware of the encounter between the two drivers of the vehicle?
I believe you advised us of that encounter at the hospital.
Okay, so given the fact that you don't know exactly when the accident took place, would it be fair to say that you don't know, well, you said you do know this, do you know how long the encounter took? Or how long the encounter between the two drivers was?
Are you referring to yourself
Myself and the
prior to police landing?
yes.
I do not.
So would it be fair to say that you never actually witnessed any operation of a motor vehicle on my part or the other party's part?
I did not witness either vehicle in motion by you or the other driver. I located you in the driver's seat of that vehicle upon arrival.
So, given the fact that you didn't witness any operation of myself or the other party would it be fair to say that you don't know there was any erratic driving on my part or whoever's part? You don't know, you obviously didn't see any driving. So is it fair to say that you don't know where any erratic driving came from?
I cannot say if it was you that caused the accident or if it was the other driver that caused the accident.
Okay. Given the placement of the vehicles in question when you arrived on the scene, how did you come up to the conclusion that myself, the defendant, had struck the other driver?
Again, I was not really able to speak with you all that much on scene due to you being taken from the vehicle and transported by all out to the hospital. So the other driver of the vehicle who advised me his side of the story, which direction apparently both were heading and what took place.
So in other words, you listened to the other driver.
On scene, and then I made the hospital and listened to your side of the story.
Okay. At what point did you determine myself, the defendant, to be under the influence of alcohol?
So again, when I originally made contact with you, there was no order to talk.
I'm sorry. And what were the signs that made you come to this? I'm sorry.
Okay, odor of toxins coming from your body, coming from the interior of the car. The bottle that was located on the passenger side of the vehicle, which was provided by Officer Fields, the one that indicated. There's another officer, all that's currently not here. He's being in order. It's coming from your vehicle. It's very short. So, issues. You say that. And also stated to us that you.
And just to reiterate, you don't know when I operated that vehicle.
Correct.
And also, from your understanding, any component, whether non-alcoholic or alcoholic, is not tequila.
Are you referring to the bottle of the passenger seat?
From your understanding, know a Corona beer to be tequila alcohol?
Those are two different things, as far as I'm
Okay,
concerned.
thank you. Were you made aware of any injuries that took place on my person that night?
So when I introduced the bottom of the vehicle, I asked if you were injured, you stated that you were. You provided, or you told me that your ribs were hurting you, so that's exactly what I told the medics that went to see. Look at for you.
Only my ribs?
Again, this happened 2 years ago. I do not recall if there was any other injuries. You're stating to me that your ribs were injured.
Okay. I actually have the report in my PDF files. I don't know if that's admissible either.
I'm not going to admit your phone, but you can go to that report and ask him questions from the report.
In your report, I know you said that you didn't give me FSTs because I had a headache. Those were your words. So you were aware of a head injury as well then.
If it's in the report.
So you took into consideration the head injury for the lack of FSTs, but you didn't take into consideration the head injury for physical possible incapabilities, mental possible incapabilities, or anything otherwise. Am I correct?
Could you restate your question?
So in your report, you put you didn't give FSTs because of my head injury, and you just stated that you did put that in the report. If you put that in your report, I'll rephrase it. In your own words, what would be your reasoning for not applying the totality of the circumstances, which is my head injury, to incapabilities that you stated as well, that you said? And I mean, because the other one, the odor of alcohol is subjective. It's like what you smell is what you smell, but the other signs that you say you saw, wow, what was that?
So the reasoning on being able to do the SMTs, you had multiple airbags inside your vehicle that were deployed. So we don't know as law enforcement, we show up to an accident scene, airbags are deployed, if the airbag struck you in the head. So due to you being in the ambulance, we can't conduct SFTs. SFTs is sobriety, field sobriety test, indicate whether or not, you have possibly been drinking. We can't provide you those tests. To answer your question.
Okay, and once again, FSTs are field sobriety tests, those are like physical things.
Okay, Q&A. This is,
I didn't know if I
I'm gonna ask him what they are.
So at some point during the night, I was standing and walking. Did you notice any staggering or inability to walk or stand up straight?
I do not recall, seeing those things come from you.
And then I asked, why was that not in your report as well? That's a part of the totality of the circumstances. Why was that not a part of your report? That I wasn't
That I
staggering?
did not see those things.
Yes, I'm referring to the fact that you put all these clues as to why I was intoxicated, but why didn't you include anything that would state that I wasn't? It's part of the totality of the circumstances.
I'm writing a report showing or stating what my indicators are that you are intoxicated. I wouldn't include that you don't have blurred eyes, that you're not staggering.
So,
I wouldn't include those to a report.
so in other words, your job is to only include incriminating factors.
So if we believe that you are impaired or under the influence of alcohol, we're gonna put in a report the reasonings on why we believe that you are impaired or under the influence of alcohol. We're not going to counter our report by stating you are not under the influence of alcohol for this instance.
Okay. You were asking me questions. You stated that I was slow to speak. What exactly does that mean?
It means when I was asking you to step out of the vehicle, when I was asking you if you were injured, there was long pauses in between your answers to my questions, almost as if it took you a while to understand what I was saying before answering.
Well, you don't have that video, part of the video, file, but, I would like to, well, I'll just ask, do you think, from your opinion, that a head injury could cause delay in answering questions?
Yes,
Would it be, given the fact that you didn't pull me over and you arrived on the scene of two disabled vehicles, would it be fair to say that this bottle of liquor that you say you found on my vehicle, that it is possible that it could have been put in the vehicle, after operation?
it's possible, but who would have placed the bottle of alcohol in the vehicle?
Just, is it fair to say it?
It's fair to say.
Right.
It's fair to say that anything can be placed in your vehicle after.
If you didn't see it.
Correct.
Okay, so that's fair to say. Would it be fair to say that it is possible that these signs and symptoms would you say that the placement of the vehicles plays a major part in the totality of the circumstances as it pertains to who crashed and to who?
So I actually am not a accident investigator. We didn't have an accident investigator on scene. As far as the placement of the two vehicles, I'm not equipped to say what happened. In North Times story, I have to go to driver's license. How the vehicles ended up, it's a vehicle accident.
You also have a crash report in your report.
Correct, I have to do a crash report. It's on a public roadway, the accidents that's on a public roadway. I am required to do an accident report or an accident investigation is where they're able to come out, determine the tracks of the vehicle, first impact, things of that nature. I'm not able to do that.
Well, that was never provided, but your crash report, that you wrote is that I went over into the median and I struck this driver. Am I correct?
Correct.
So given the placement of the vehicles, when you arrived on the scene, how does that coincide with each other?
So again, I spoke with the other driver of that vehicle on scene based off of what the other driver provided to me on scene. I believe there's a photo on that accident report. You can see where I was under the impression due to speaking with you and the other driver, first impact of the incident.
So once again, I ask, given the fact that our cars were placed off on my side of the road onto the grass, how is it that you put in your report that I went over in this direction the grass into him?
Because that is the statement given by the other driver.
Okay. No, trying to get to this. Would it be fair to say, that my head and ribs injuries played a major part in the totality of the circumstances pertains to the functions of my bodily aspects? I think I've asked and you've answered that.
Yeah, so, I mean, your head injury and your ribs, you didn't have a head injury or a rib injury prior to the accident. Those were due to the accident.
No, I mean, well, you already answered, so I don't want to waste your time. Are you aware that I don't have a DUI conviction on my record?
Am I aware that you do not?
Yes.
I don't know what you have on your record. I believe, if I recall correctly, that you have a prior. I don't know if it's a conviction. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't know, where that came from either, because you put on your report that this is my second offense. And
Okay. So again, this is an incident that took place 2 years ago. I don't have the report in front of me.
I literally have it. If I wish I could just show it to
Do
everybody.
you have it on paper?
Well, am I able to?
Yeah, go ahead.
And there. I mean, it's riddled.
Can you flip the page?
And also you have on your report, you made a statement that I have a prior conviction. I'll just show you where that's that.
Good help.
It says
Thank you, Mr. Greco.
that. I was convicted of.
Okay, so my report states Dwayne was convicted on 02/11/2021 of DUI. Shows on complete driving history, but not CCH. So what we do is we go back to the police department and we get a CCH for anybody that gets arrested. And CCH
Excuse me, officer. CCH is?
Oh, okay. Pretty much their criminal. Yeah, so he wants to. Is it really enough? Did not show that he was convicted of the lie on his driving record. He year was sold on March 2023. So it does show that you driving while impaired under the influence. I'm not sure. With all your questions.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely false. So I'm trying to figure out why it was in the report. I don't have a conviction on my record for DUI.
Okay, so we go back to our station, get with our Rollins Police Department dispatch, they provide the paperwork. We look on the paperwork, it says your name, it says what you were convicted of, again, on CCH. Paperwork provided to me by the Rollins Police dispatch is stated. And then they convicted of. I can't prove whether just based off of that paperwork, it shows that you had
Given the fact that I don't, given the fact that I don't have a conviction on my record of this charge, would it be fair to say that if I were convicted of this crime, it would be my first offense if I didn't have it? Because I don't, but I'm asking you, given the fact that I don't, or if you're in your mind that I don't have it, you're saying I do, this will be my first offense, right?
Your Honor, objection, lack of foundation. The witness has already indicated he really has no personal knowledge.
Yeah, I also sustain the objection. Let me ask him a question. If it turned out that that conviction record that you had was faulty, then this would be the first time,
Correct.
if he's convicted today, it would be his first conviction.
Correct.
Does that help?
So, given that fact, a mistake of putting a second offense on my charge or your report would be very vital to me as a person. My punishments would be larger or increased. Am I correct?
So as a police officer, I don't convict you, I just handle what I have in front of me at that point in time. That all goes for the courts to figure out, that not on me.
Man, I'll ask a different question. If whatever the mistake was, where it came in that I had a prior conviction and it was in your report, given the fact that I don't, if I was the type of person that didn't look into all this kind of stuff, wouldn't that be very vital to my punishment in this courtroom?
In that situation, it would be me acting as in good faith, is that under my knowledge as what I provided in my report, and that's for the courts to decide on whether or not I have prior conviction.
And where did you say you got this information from?
Around the police department dispatcher.
So your Romulus, the police department dispatcher told you that I had a prior offense.
Correct. So I go back to the police station, I do a report on the incident. Our dispatcher is the one that pretty much provides the majority of our paperwork. Within that paperwork, you observe your name, your date of birth, where you live, and it states to us what you were, pretty much your driving history. Also, it's at your record.
Here on I'm gonna, for time's sake, I'm gonna make it clear when I ask a question, whether yes or no, or if I don't just want a yes or no answer, then you can elaborate. But that's all I want to know is, did your dispatch give you that information?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, Mr. Lee, I'm going to stop you. You're already over doubled the time limits that I set. And I'm going to let you go a little further, but I just want to make sure that you don't spend much more time on this issue because it's not even relevant today. You're not charged with a second offense. It's not something he's got to prove to convict you today. So I don't want you to use your limited time on an issue that really doesn't come to play in today's trial.
I'm sorry for that.
No. It's your time. You can use it how you want. I'm just warning you.
He put it in the report.
Okay.
That was pretty good. Did you say you witnessed the performing of the blood draw, right? Okay. Do you know if she wiped my arm with alcohol or another substance?
I believe that the wipes that they utilize does not contain alcohol in any of the wipes.
You believe or you know?
What is inside the blood kit is not provided. Me, it's provided by, I'm gonna guess, Michigan State Police, the blood kit. So they would be better equipped to know what to utilize for a blood draw than myself. What's inside the blood kit is forensic lab, to my knowledge.
So
Let me help you out, Mr. Lee. If you know the swab that the phlebotomist used on Mr. Lee, did that come out of the kit? Okay. So I think the lady that's going to be on Zoom from the lab can answer that question. What exactly is that? I think. I would assume she should. Okay. Okay. So he might not be the best witness to get to that.
would it be fair to say, okay, are you sure that my blood was the blood that was tested at the lab?
Yes,
And how did you come to that conclusion?
I was there while the phlebotomist was conducting your blood draw. I watched them take the vials out of the box. I watched them do both vials of blood, and then I watched them carefully place both vials of blood back into the box.
Are you referring to the blood draw?
Correct.
No, I mean the lab, the testing lab. Where you were?
I'm not president of the lab.
Oh, that's all I want to work. I said I was gonna say yes or no. Did you properly store my blood when it was in your possession?
Correct. And the phlebotomist places it into the box. I don't have any contact with your blood whatsoever.
Outside of the box.
Outside of the box, yes. I transport your blood from point A to point B, which would be hospital to the hospital departments and dropping the outgoing mail to the forensic lab.
Okay, do you have any word, or do you have any record other than your word that will show how the blood was handled while in custody at the police department? Are you for certain that my blood didn't get misplaced at any stage in this investigation?
From the time that I had the blood kit, it did not get misplaced. Anything further from that? I can't tell you.
So are you for certain that my blood didn't get mislabeled?
I know for a fact your blood did not get mislabeled.
Are you for certain that my blood, are you for certain that my blood was properly stored in the right temperatures over the course of time that it transported from the hospital to the lab back to you all for the results?
Question for the box.
As far as the storage,
As far as the temperature, I'm not sure if there's anything in regards to the temperature. But
um,
out of my time as a law enforcement officer, never heard of a blood kit being misplaced.
you never heard of it. No further question.
Mr. Greco?
Briefly, Your Honor. At the hospital, before you get the search warrant, your standard is probable cause, correct?
Correct.
You were not convicting Mr. Lee that night.
No.
Correct. You had suspicion
Correct.
based upon the totality of the circumstances that you went through with Mr. Lee, correct?
Correct.
And you know, we're here in the 34th District Court on an OWI first, correct?
Correct.
All right, if it was an OWI second, in your experience, we can down, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Do you have any redirect or recross? Follow-up based on those questions?
You stated that if we're OWI second, just for the record, we'll be downtown, right?
Correct.
So once again, given the fact that it was put in your report, that is a second offense, I would have been downtown.
Correct.
No further questions.
Okay. Oh, so you can step down. Watch your step on the ramp. You want to take care of the lady on Zoom?
Ray has some questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're all right. I think I'm speaking with you.
Okay, that's, I'm just trying to get the lab person. Show that to Mr. Greco and Mr. Lee. Yeah, and folks, if you have a question, it doesn't have to be on the official question form. It can just be on a page out of your notepad. Do either one of you have any objections to this question being asked?
Yes.
Okay. I would agree with Mr. Greco.
That is the question?
Correct.
Because I was gonna ask that, but I
Okay. And he probably would have objected and I would have sustained the objection. I agree. I agree. All right, now you can step down.
I was just gonna ask that the lady this situation, why was he not tested?
And that would be irrelevant, just like it is right now. Mr. Greco, next witness.
Next witness is Michelle Petrie.
Raise your right hand for me. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth today?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Come settle up in that chair. Make yourself comfortable and then state your name and spell your last name.
Michelle, Michele, Petrie, Petrie.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Petrie, just once again, please state your name for the record.
Michelle, Michele, Petrie, Petrie.
And where are you employed?
Fort Will, Wayne, in the yard.
Okay, is that the old Annapolis Hospital?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been employed there?
5 years.
Okay, and what is your position there?
I'm an ER medic.
Okay, and what are your generally duties and responsibilities?
I assist with all the patient care, medical, and trauma with my nurses and doctors.
Can you describe for the jury your training and certifications, if any?
My training started in 1990 as a medical assistant with Ross Medical Education, licensed with EMS of 1990.
Can you describe any training you've had related to the drawing of blood?
Medical assistant and ER medic, phlebotomy, and starting IVs.
Okay. For how long have you been doing this?
This is 1990.
Nice, 35 years?
Yes,
Were you working on the evening of October 5th, 2023, going into the early morning hours of October 6th?
yes,
You recall, I know it's 2 years ago, but you recall drawing blood from an individual at the direction of the Romulus Police Department that night?
yes,
Okay. Have you ever drawn blood under such circumstances before?
yes.
Okay. And how often have you been involved? When I say such circumstances, pursuant to a warrant?
Yes,
And in your experience over the years, how often have you been involved in such?
several,
Okay.
I would say several.
Several, like less than 10, more than 10, a few a year, a few a month? How would you describe to the jury?
More than 10,
More than 10.
over the years.
Okay. Over the years, okay. Now, are you familiar with the MSP, the Michigan State Police blood draw kit?
Yes,
Okay, and that's because you indicated that you've done this.
yes.
With the direction of police. All right, what's in the Michigan State blood draw kit?
There are 2 vials, 2 for urine, 2 for blood.
Okay,
Also, there's the paperwork. There is the paperwork. Also, there is a betadine swab for patient.
and labels, I assume.
Yes,
Okay, what's a betadine swab?
a betadine swab is a brown swab. The inside of it is a brown swab, not alcohol.
Okay, and that's specific to these blood tests.
Yes,
Correct.
it's just to cleanse the area.
Just to cleanse the area, but not something that's alcoholic, like
No,
maybe used, on doing shots or something that all of us encounter when we go to the doctor.
correct.
All right, in this case, when the officers present there, what do you do?
I make sure there is a warrant for blood draw.
Okay.
Make sure the judge's name is on it.
Okay, so you take a look at the paperwork.
Yes,
And did you confirm the warrant in this case with respect to Mr. Dwayne Lee?
yes, I did.
Okay. And was it Officer Rishado that was there? that
Yes.
evening? Okay. And once you confirmed the warrant, I assume.
I prepare my area.
Prepare the
I
area.
prepare it.
You also confirmed the patient, I know he's there in Valley, but you also confirmed the patient with the IVs and stuff?
Yes.
So you match everything up, correct?
Yes,
Matched it all up last that night for Dwayne Lee?
yes.
Okay. All right. What are the instruments and tools that you use to do a blood draw like this?
I do have them with me today. May I?
Okay, sure, you have. So this would be in addition to the blood, what's in the blood draw kit?
No, this is not in the kit. This
That's
is
correct. In
what I
addition,
use.
talk about what's in, this would give you the tools that you, correct?
My butterfly. Okay,
Okay,
my bag container, everything is sealed and sterile. Only thing that's not sealed and sterile are my gloves.
but they're new when you use them, correct?
Yes.
Out of the box, correct?
That's fresh out of the box, and my tourniquet.
Okay, so those are the tools that they have on hand at the hospital that you use to do the physical blood draw using the vials and the betadine, that's
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Thing from the MSP.
Yes,
Correct. All right, the instruments you indicated are sterile.
yes.
Okay.
Everything is packed.
Okay. Was there anything in the records that indicated any difficulty in obtaining the blood samples in this case?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you follow the correct procedures and protocol?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you drew the blood, correct?
Yes.
What happened? Said you had 2 vials. What do you do?
My files are prepared. They are labeled with my name on them and the police officer's name on them.
Okay.
Everything is kind,
Okay.
even when I penetrate the skin.
Okay. All right, very good. So you do the blood draw, do the 1 vial and the next vial right after?
Yes,
Okay. And then you label everything?
yes.
Or you're labeling some before, some after?
No, everything is labeled after.
Got it, okay. And then once everything is labeled, what do you do with the vials?
Vials are placed in the kit
Okay,
with the paperwork in triplicate and sealed with the police officer's signature and my signature.
okay. And when you say the blood vials are sealed, correct?
Yes,
they put like a label over it,
Yes,
so that when the lab gets it, they can see an unsealed, unlabeled broken seal, correct? And you're the one who monitors all this with the officer present,
Yes.
correct? Is everything properly drawn, labeled
Yes.
and sealed, that evening?
yes,
Okay. And the vials are sealed in front of you, correct?
yes.
And then what happens with the vials, the box? Did you put it in the box?
Everything's in the box with the paperwork. Everything is signed. And the police officers take everything away.
Okay, once everything is,
Yes,
and as far as that night with Mr. Lee, did that conclude your involvement in that case until at least this morning?
yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Lee, cross?
Late morning.
Morning.
Well, didn't know that I was gonna be crossing you, but I will.
That's fine.
I know this is during your questioning. First of all, you understand on your own.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That was a yes, Ms. Petrie?
Yes,
Thank you.
Notice during your, I'm sorry, notice during your questioning that the prosecutor asked you a lot of questions. And when you use the word is, everything is, the labs are sealed in this. Are you for certain that every answer that you gave to each question referred to my case?
yes, I understand that.
No, I'm saying, are you for certain that every answer you gave is critically prone to my case?
Yes,
So we're not speaking in general of what is normally done. We're speaking about the night in question in
yes,
my case.
yes.
And you clearly remember all those procedures that you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Okay, so you make it, you were saying that you make it a habit or you make it a good work habit to do these things
I have to.
with no mistakes.
Mistakes.
And you would say, oh, how long have you been working, you say?
I've been working since 1990.
It's 1990, unblemished.
No, I'm not unblemished.
Make mistakes. Question.
No, not even in working EMS.
So you haven't made any mistakes.
No, no mistakes.
Are,
I'm sorry.
so you are unblemished or are you not?
I'm unblemished.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Question.
Any follow-up?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You can go back to work.
Thank
You for your time. Watch your step on the ramp right here. And thanks for the props. I liked it.
Yes.
Well, really, it's very helpful, I think.
This is what.
No, I like it. Thank you. Mr. Greco, are we ready for Miss Wichterman?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Thank you for your patience today. Could you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth today?
I do.
Would you state your name?
My name is Brooke Wichterman.
Thank you, Ms. Wichterman. Mr. Greco?
Right. Good morning, Ms. Wichterman.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please, once again, state your name for the record.
My name is Brooke Wichterman.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Michigan State Police Forensic Science Division in the Toxicology Unit.
Okay, and what is your position at the NSPD Forensic Lab Toxicology Unit?
I am a forensic scientist.
Okay. And generally speaking, we're going to get into this case, but what are your duties and responsibilities of a forensic scientist? What do you do?
I analyze blood and other biological specimens for the presence of alcohol and drugs.
Okay. Can you please describe for the jury your educational background?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry from Villanova University.
Now, I'd like you to look at, I'm going to hand to you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 3, which is a copy of your curriculum vitae, your CV, or your resume. You have that in front of you?
I do have it.
And does it accurately describe your education, training, and experience?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to move for admission of Exhibit number 3, Wichterman's CV.
Mr. Lee, have you had a chance to look at that?
It was sent to me in the email.
Any objection to that admittance?
No.
All right, that'll come in, Mr. Greco. Thank you. Proceed.
All right, Ms. Whitman, describe your training in toxicology.
My training in toxicology has mostly been through the Michigan State Police. They have a module-based training program that we use for any analysis that we're learning. It begins with an observation period where I observe another trained scientist performing the method I'm learning. After that, I am observed performing the steps of that method, and the final step is me going through a series of competency tests. The tests are performance-based, where I analyze a series of samples that have been previously analyzed, and my results must match the previous results of the trained scientist within given acceptance criteria. After that, there's also a written and an oral-based test, both of which test my knowledge on the subject and my ability to accurately testify to my results using that method. Once
Right.
that's completed and I pass, my supervisors review that and they sign off on me being competent in whatever method I'm learning.
So when you get the job, it's a lot of testing and training and competency for you.
Yeah, in the beginning, definitely.
Yeah, okay. And all the things that you just talked about as far as the observations, the testing, the coming within the margin of error, and the written and oral exams, did you pass those?
I did.
Right, thank you. Since the completion of your training, have you tested blood samples for ethanol and drugs?
Yes.
Okay, approximately how many times?
For alcohol specifically, I have tested a little under 3,800 samples.
And have you testified in court before as a forensic scientist?
I have.
And approximately how many times have you testified in court before today?
4 times.
Okay, and have you been qualified as an expert each time?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move to qualify Ms. Whitman as an expert in the area of forensic science, specifically in the area of analyzing blood for presence of alcohol under MRE, Michigan Rule of Evidence 702.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, any objections? Qualified.
All right, Ms. Whitman, did you test a blood sample in this case regarding the defendant Dwayne Lee?
I did.
Okay. And how is it, now you've never met Mr. Lee, correct?
No.
Okay, so how is the blood sample in this case that you indicated that you examined regarding Mr. Lee, how is it received in the triangle?
The evidence that we receive comes to us typically through first-class mail. It's sent in small cardboard kits that are cardboard boxes that we refer to as kits with an evidence-safe seal on that.
And that's the normal way a sample gets to your lab, first class mail?
Typically, yes.
Please describe the protocol in your laboratory governing the reception and documentation of evidence.
Our evidence comes to us, like I said, through first-class mail. It comes to the main evidence reception area in the laboratory. Our technicians in our toxicology unit are the ones that retrieve the kits and they will bring them back to our toxicology evidence reception room. Once they bring the kits to that room, they begin to open the kits one at a time. The first thing the technician does is they make sure that the evidence safe seal is still intact. After that, they're going to break that seal and begin moving the items of evidence out of the box. Typically, what's in the kit is the blood tubes and the paperwork that goes along with them. The technician compares the information on the blood tubes to the information on the paperwork, and they make sure that everything matches. At this point, they can begin to enter all the information into our information management system for our laboratory, and they will also give that case a unique toxicology identification number. That's what we use to refer to the case from the time that it's in our laboratory. After they're done entering all the information in the system, they will put those tubes into our secure refrigerators.
Okay. And was the protocol that you just described done in this case?
Yes.
As far as your involvement in this case and observations of what you did and do, was there any irregularities with regard to the evidence in this case?
No.
Okay. What method does your lab use to determine the presence and the amount of alcohol in a person's blood that's submitted to you?
We use a method that's called Headspace GCFID. In simple terms, what that method is able to do, it takes a sample, which is a mixture of different components, it's able to separate that mixture into its individual components and identify what that is, what they are, and measure how much of each is present. Our method is specifically looking to identify and measure alcohol in the mixture.
And is there a protocol for the use of this method?
Yes.
All right, what is it and why?
There's a protocol so that we make sure that we're treating each case that comes into our laboratory the same way and to make sure that our quality standards are being met for each case.
Okay. And was the protocol followed in this case?
Yes.
Okay, and what measures or quality control steps are taken to ensure that the results are reliable and accurate?
There are a variety of different quality control steps that we use. The instruments that we use are calibrated with each batch that we run. We also prepare a set of control samples that are run throughout the batch. Control samples are samples that have known amounts of alcohol in them. We run them throughout the batch to make sure that our instruments are operating correctly and giving us reliable and accurate results. We also prepare and run a series of samples that are negative, which means they don't have any alcohol in them. Those are run throughout the batch to make sure that our instruments are detecting alcohol where there's none present. Also, after the instruments are done running, my work will go through 2 different review processes before my report is going to get released. The first review is done by a supervisor who makes sure that my batch meets quality control standards. And the second review is done by another trained forensic scientist who looks at my work for the case before the report's released.
And were all your instruments in proper working condition for this case?
Yes.
And how many tests did you perform on this specific blood sample?
So for each blood tube that we are analyzing for alcohol, I prepare 2 different samples from that blood tube. Each of those samples get run on their own individual instrument, and each instrument is going to measure the amount of alcohol in that sample twice. That gives us a total of 4 measurements for alcohol in the blood tube, and the result that we report out is an average of those 4 results.
And did you obtain a result after testing the blood in this case, Mr. Lee's case?
I did.
And did you prepare a report?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to hand you through the ether, I guess. People's Exhibit number 4, which is, I'd like you to take a look at that and describe for the court what that is.
This is the laboratory report that I wrote for this case.
And on page 2, it has your signature.
Yes.
And what does your signature on the bottom of the report mean?
It just means that I'm the one that wrote the report.
Let's see, I think we talked about this, but what were the findings in this case? What does your report indicate?
The result that I reported was 0.125 grams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood.
And this, in fact, is the report that you.
Yes, this is the report that I wrote.
Your Honor, I'd like to move for admission of People's Exhibit number 4.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, any objections?
For it,
What did you just put in front of you? All right, that'll come in. Thank you.
Do you know what the legal limit for alcohol or operating for alcohol in the state of Michigan is for operating a motor vehicle?
The legal limit is 0.080 grams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood.
0.080. Was the Mr. Lee's blood in this amount in excess of that?
Yes,
It said 0.125.
correct.
So that report in your report, the number in your report is higher than the legal limit that is legally allowable in the state of Michigan to operate a motor vehicle, correct?
Correct.
I have no further questions here.
Mr. Lee, any questions for Ms. Wichterman? I think you can do it from there. Try it. I think she'll hear you. Yeah, I mean, you can do the podium if you want to, but I see all your paperwork's there. Ms. Wichterman, if you cannot hear Mr. Lee, just let me know.
Okay.
hello.
Hi.
So you say that, so you say that the answers that you gave to the questions as well. Well, first of all, you know you're under oath as well, right?
Yes, I'm aware I'm under oath.
Okay, you're for certain that the answers that you gave to all the questions that were asked to you by the prosecution were specific to my case and not in general?
Yes, some of the questions were specific to your case, some were general questions.
Do you recall which questions those were?
Which were general or which were specific to your case?
Which,
She sounds like a scientist, doesn't she?
absolutely, I'd like to know.
No, you're very specific. I like that. Yeah, go ahead. Clarify with her.
I'd like to know what exact answers you gave were specific to me and your recollection of what you did regarding to my case. Was my blood tested? Or, well, I'll get to that later, but what questions were referring to me specifically? And what questions were instead?
Yeah,
Sure.
the questions that were more general were the ones that were asking me about how my laboratory, the protocols that we use. And the questions that were more specific were the ones that were asking me, if I analyzed the case, your evidence, and what my result was.
So, in other words, you're saying that you absolutely recall that you follow every general, normal protocol procedure in
Every
my
time-
specific situation.
I don't specifically recall analyzing your tubes. However, I use the same protocol and I make sure that I'm following the steps of that protocol every time I perform an analysis. I always follow it, so that's how I can be sure that I did follow the protocol in this case.
So in other words, you're basically saying that you normally would, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, yes or no. You normally like to stick to a certain procedure, but you don't recall if that took place specifically in my case, or is that what you're saying?
I always follow the procedure when I'm performing the methods in my laboratory. I do not specifically remember picking up your tube and analyzing it, but I always follow the procedure.
Would you say that that answer, yes or no, would kind of be an oxymoron?
Yeah, you could say that.
Or write that down. Okay, so you're saying on record that the answer that you just gave could be considered, in your opinion, an oxymoron.
I don't know exactly what you mean by that statement.
Basically, they're contradicting each other. You're saying that you normally like.
No. I got to correct you. She's not using the word normally. She's using the word always.
Okay.
Vastly different meanings. I think that's where you're getting in problems with her.
Well, that actually proves my point a little bit better. Because if she says she always does it, then there shouldn't be a question of whether she did or not with me.
That's her position. That's what her testimony is. I always do it. Every time I do a test, I do it the same way every time.
She doesn't recall.
And that's why we do things the same way every time, so we don't have to specifically remember a specific case. That was her testimony. You can follow up with that testimony, but I'm just correcting you. Don't use the word normally because she doesn't use that word. No, that's all right.
I'd like to add another question. Would you say that a basketball player would like to take his shot the same way every time? Would you know?
Your Honor, I would object to relevancy. I'm not sure where we're going here. Question.
Yeah, how's that relevant?
I'm gonna make it correlate to this.
Well, there's a vast difference between playing basketball and doing a scientific analysis. So I don't think that's any more analogous than pork chops and horsetails.
Can I,
You can try another question.
can I give like a response to that?
No,
Yeah, I mean, because.
you can try another question. I've ruled that that one's not relevant, so try another question.
Would you say that your job requires a very precise concentration on methodology?
Yes, I definitely pay attention to what I'm doing very closely.
No, I said, would you say that your job requires you to, in this particular instance, I didn't ask you what you do. I asked you, is it important to be concise and to always follow the methodology?
Yes, it's important to always follow the methodology.
Would you say that, would you say that the smallest room for error, would you say that the smallest error could damage the intent? Was it fair to say the smallest error would damage the integrity of these tests.
Yes, if there was an error, it could damage the integrity. That's why we have a lot of quality assurance steps in place to try and make sure that those errors do not happen.
Other than your word, do you have any record of these precautions that you took
Yes, we do keep record of the quality controls measures that we take.
via what?
Sorry.
What are these record keeping methods that you take?
Like I said, we prepare and we run all of the control and negative samples throughout the batch. That the results that we get for those samples are kept and documented in our laboratory. I also explained how there are 2 different review steps that go on, and both of those are documented in our laboratory information management system.
Would you say that the improper handling of the police department when they obtain the blood, the improper handling as it pertains to keeping it in a certain temperature, if they keep it in different, do you think in your, no, let me rephrase that. From your opinion, in your opinion, can the integrity of the test, the blood samples that are given to the officers be
Mr. Lee, can I help you or try to?
yeah,
Let me just ask a question. If it's not what you're going for, then that's fine. You can ignore it. Ms. Wichterman, I think where Mr. Lee is trying to go with this is it possible that the integrity of your analysis would be affected by the improper storage of the sample prior to the lab receiving it?
Yes, we do not, I cannot control how the police agency is going to store or handle the evidence. However, there have been several journal articles and scientific studies that show that regardless of room temperature or how long the samples are kept at room temperature as opposed to our secure refrigerator, it's not going to affect the integrity of the blood samples. And I do have some of those with me if you'd like me to present them, or go further on that.
so are you familiar with the term fermentation?
Yes, I'm familiar with that term.
So it's not possible, well, can you give your analysis on what fermentation is?
Fermentation is when there's a certain bacteria that is able to take sugar and metabolize that sugar.
And when does that become?
The sugar, one of the byproducts that it is going to create is carbon dioxide.
Would ethanol be included?
Yes,
Okay,
byproduct.
and just for the record, I'm asking ethanol be included in that bacteria that will be composed or produced by this fermentation process.
Yes. However, the tubes that we used for collecting blood do have ingredients in them that prevent that fermentation. They have a preservative known as sodium fluoride that prevents the growth of any sort of bacteria and metabolism of anything in the blood.
And the thing that you just referred to, that is called an anticoagulant. Is that correct?
That is one of the other things that is kept in the blood tube. What I refer to is a preservative. The anticoagulant is another ingredient that just prevents the blood from clotting to make it easier for us to analyze.
So what are you testing for? What are you measuring when you're measuring these DUI blood samples to determine alcohol? What is the actual element that you're testing for?
We are testing for a variety of different alcohols. One of those is ethanol. That is your regular drinking alcohol, and that's what I reported on the result. Other things we're looking for are acetone, isopropanol, and methanol.
And just for the record, this fermentation process that I spoke of, if the blood sample was not handled correctly and the blood ferments, then that does produce ethanol. Am I correct?
It wouldn't happen in the blood tube because of that preservative, but if it were to happen, and in general, if fermentation did occur somewhere, somehow, yes, that is a byproduct.
Yes, that's all I want to know. Does the fermentation process produce the ethanol that you are looking for in these tests?
Yes, fermentation would create that as a byproduct.
And why, and what are some of the reasons that you know under your profession that fermentation can take place?
If there's a sufficient amount of bacteria or if there's sugar.
Okay, so what are some of the reasons that the bacteria can grow?
I'm not sure. You
So
would have to
are
ask. I don't
so
know.
you're aware of this terminology, you're aware of that the fact that this process can take place, but you're not aware of what can cause it.
Yes, it's not something that is relevant to the integrity of our analysis, so it's not something that I'm familiar with, how I would make it take place if I wanted to.
Okay, are you for certain, other than the label that's on the blood, that the blood you receive is my blood?
We use the labels in the blood as the identification. It comes in the kit with the paperwork that is going along with it. We compare the paperwork to the blood tubes and make sure that the same name is listed on both. That's how we know what blood we're analyzing.
Just gonna ask either yes or no. Are you for sure that other than the label that's on the blood, that the blood you received was my blood? Yes or no?
No, we just use the label as an identification for the blood that we're receiving.
So in your opinion, would it be fair to say that is it possible that the label could be mislabeled?
I did not put the label on it. That would not be a question for me. That would be for whoever took the blood and put the label on it. I'm not sure what they did.
You're not sure for the record whether it's possible or whether it's fair to say that it could happen?
I wasn't there when the label was put on the blood tube, so I don't know.
Okay, so in the course of this case, we spoke in generality, we spoke in
Specific, yeah.
So I'm speaking in generality now. Is it possible that it can happen?
I don't know. I'm not a part of that process.
You don't know whether, for the record, you don't know whether or not it's possible that, have you never heard of any blood being mislabeled?
I have not heard of any blood being mislabeled.
You specifically haven't heard of that. Do you know what the calibration curve is?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain that?
Yes, it's one of the quality control measures that we use. I mentioned earlier that we calibrate the instrument with each batch that we're running. We prepare a series of samples with known amounts of alcohol in them for the things that we're looking for in the sample, and we run them on the instrument. This essentially teaches the instrument what it's looking at. So if we give the instrument a sample with a known alcohol concentration, it knows that that concentration is going to give a certain amount of intensity on the detector. It teaches the instrument how to accurately read a sample for alcohol. We do that at the beginning of each batch so that the instrument is operating properly.
Okay, so, in other words, yes or no, in other words, in relation to like a weight scale, if it's not properly calibrated, well, in regards to this machine, if it's not properly calibrated, could it be wrong results?
If it wasn't properly calibrated, yes.
So for the record, it's fair to say that if this machine was not properly calibrated, it can leave wrong results, okay?
Yes, and that is why we make sure that calibration curve that you mentioned is meeting all of our quality standards. And that's also why we run those control samples to make sure that our instrument is calibrated properly throughout the batch.
And this calibration curve passing of the assessment that you make is according to your calculations, right?
The instrument uses a software that calculates the accuracy of that calibration curve for us, and that's something that I review as a scientist, and my supervisor is also going to review.
Right, ultimately, I mean, any scale that you calibrate is gonna calibrate. According to your analysis, you make the conclusion of whether it's calibrated or not correctly. Correct?
I make the conclusion based on the information that the software is providing me and my work is also checked by my supervisor.
And this is the gas chromatography
Yes,
machine?
yes.
And in your profession, you never heard of these machines malfunctioning?
No, every instrument is going to malfunction at some point.
Well, I'm sorry.
Instruments do malfunction, correct? Yes, they do. A GC
Okay.
isn't going to work properly all the time. That's why we have all the quality insurance, making sure that it's operating correctly during the batch.
Alright. This anticoagulant that we spoke of that's in the vials, and also the other, I forget what other
Preservative.
preservative you said. Under oath, if that amount of anticoagulant not enough inside of that vial, in other words, if enough of it is not put inside of it, it can it or can it not damage the integrity of the result that you get from that blood sample?
Yes, it could, but that would also be something that I would notice when preparing the sample. If there was not enough of an anticoagulant, I would get a very clotty sample, and it would be very difficult for me to pipette any sort of blood from that sample. And it would definitely cause issues, but that would be noted. If there was no preservative present or not enough preservative present, I would observe if anything had happened to the sample, I would observe things with the sample, things like bubbles or any sort of CO2 or pressure that would indicate that there wasn't enough preservative.
And you're stating on record that you are for certain, I mean, this is your word, that you did everything correctly.
I follow the protocol.
Is this machine called a Delta G?
Sorry?
Is this machine that you perform this test on called a Delta G?
It's called a GCFID.
GCFID? Is just different brands? Is a Delta one of those brands? Or is that the brand?
It's an Agilent is the brand.
Okay, no. Oh, and were you the only one that handled this test?
I am the individual that received the test when it came into our laboratory. I was working as a technician at the time, and I received the evidence and placed it into our secure refrigerators. I am the scientist that then took it out of the refrigerator and analyzed it for alcohol. After that, one other scientist performed an analysis on the sample. They performed our preliminary drug screen. That was after I had already analyzed the blood for alcohol.
So the blood was refrigerated beforehand,
Yes.
and I mean, would you have to take calculations of the refrigeration process as well?
Our technicians look at the refrigerators twice a day and making sure that they're at the right temperature, and they do document those temperatures.
Why do they do that?
Sorry?
Why do they do those calculations?
We have samples and a lot of other chemicals in the refrigerators that it's part of our protocol to keep them at a certain temperature. So they make sure that the refrigerators are at that certain temperature. It's just a part of our following protocol.
What would happen if, I mean, if the temperatures were wrong, what would you do?
The protocol says that we will notify a supervisor and they will either get someone to fix the refrigerator. If it occurs for a long period of time, we'd probably move the standards, all the chemicals that we have in there into our secondary refrigerator.
And lastly, once again, you stated that the handling of the blood before it got to you, you have no recollection of that.
I was not there before the blood got to me. I don't know how it was handled. However, there have been studies that show that the handling of samples or storing them at other temperatures besides in a refrigerator will not affect the integrity of the sample.
Okay, well, you brought up studies, so are you aware that there are studies that say that the temperature of the upkeep of temperature of blood can in fact affect the integrity of the test in a negative sense as well? In other words, you've heard of these tests that say that it doesn't. These are just analyses that are made by specific people. Have you heard of tests that say that it doesn't affect the integrity?
That it does.
Yes.
I am not aware of any peer-reviewed scientific literature.
Okay.
Mr. Lee, I gotta correct something though. I think, Ms. Wichterman, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she's specifically speaking of the state police test kits that they get. That the studies show that the temperature, storage temperature doesn't matter with those because of these preservatives and other things that are in those too.
Oh, no.
So that's why I'm asking, because I think maybe the studies you're talking about aren't specifically as to the MSP test kits.
No, I meant the actual blood, not the kids. Like the actual organic blood in of itself. Because you brought up the bacteria that can grow on this blood because it is an organic matter. So I'm speaking of that in and of itself, the temperature of the blood, not the temperature of the body.
Let me try this. Ms. Wichterman, if somebody drew blood and just put it in a straight glass tube, no additives, for you to get an accurate test on that, the storage of that sample, the temperature it was stored would be important, wouldn't it?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. All right, because the way I'm understanding what you're telling us is the way the state police kits are produced with the additives in the tube make it unnecessary to have a temperature controlled storage process from the draw to the testing.
That's correct. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No, I thought I was where you were trying to go, and I thought maybe that was a better way to get there.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion.
No problem at all. Go ahead.
Also, in regards to, let's just say that I did drink alcohol and there was alcohol in my system. I was a person that had alcohol in my system. Does weight of a person, yes or no, does weight affect the integrity of tests that are taken?
Weight would not affect the integrity of the test, no. Either way.
Well, in other words, let me say this. Let me rephrase the question. When the police get blood, or when they draw blood that is at a hospital, when you're dealing with drivers that are driving drunk, they pull someone over, and you have them on the side of the road, take them to the hospital, they take that test. Let me start with another question. Does blood alcohol content, which is what is being measured here, does that rise and fall over time?
In an individual's body.
In any individual's body that has drank alcohol?
Yes.
Right, thank you. So, if you do have a person that was drinking alcohol, and an officer pulls them over, and they take them to the hospital, they take a test, they get that blood at that specific time. Is that blood that they took at that specific time the exact blood level that was at the time of operation?
No, we're looking at the amount of alcohol in the blood at the specific time of the draw. That's the blood that I'm receiving in my laboratory.
So, would it be fair to say that even if whatever that blood was, whatever that level was you got back, that possibly, in your opinion, is it fair to say that possibly wasn't even the level of the person's blood when they was driving the car?
I can't perform that calculation. I'm not sure. There is a possibility that would be slightly different than the time of the draw, but I can't perform that calculation.
So, also, once again, you say that not does the weight affect the integrity of the calculation. Does weight affect the way they metabolize alcohol?
Weight could affect that calculation of how it's metabolized. It could affect the effects that one feels at a certain blood alcohol concentration, but it won't affect the blood alcohol.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll just please answer me yes or no to this.
Sorry.
That's a question. Does weight affect metabolism of blood alcohol content? Yes or no?
Yes.
Does race affect blood alcohol content metabolism?
I'm not sure if race is a part of the calculation. I don't know. Every individual is going to metabolize and feel the effects of alcohol differently.
That's another question that I was gonna ask. Does genetics affect the intent or the rate of alcohol content metabolizing?
I don't know specifics. I don't know.
You just said it does, because you just.
No, she said every individual is different.
Metabolizing is different.
I'm
Well,
not
You
trained
asked specifically,
sorry, I'm
Okay.
not trained in those calculations, so I don't know specifically. Um, I don't know about genetic factors.
Okay. Does gender affect the rate of blood alcohol content metabolized?
Yes.
Okay, so anybody that gets pulled over for DUI, or they get arrested for DUI, it's fair to say that their blood alcohol content level is rising or falling as time is moving by, right?
Yes, the body metabolizes alcohol.
No further.
any redirect?
Yeah, just briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Wickerman, was there any evidence of any fermentation or contamination in the blood vials, for Mr. Lee?
No, like I said earlier, one of the other products of fermentation is carbon dioxide. So we would have seen pressure build up in the tubes when I opened it, or gas bubbles in the tube, and I did not see either of those.
And we were just talking about the body metabolizing blood. Would it be fair to say, well, in this case, your report indicates that at the time of the blood draw, Mr. Lee's blood alcohol level was 0.125 grams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood, correct?
Yes.
Right. And the metabolization of alcohol breaks that down, that it would go down over time generally, unless you just recently consumed some alcohol, correct?
Yeah, it would depend on when the alcohol was consumed.
Okay. So would it be fair to say, in your professional expert opinion, that at 11:30 or 11:41, Mr. Lee's blood alcohol would have even been greater than what's in your report if the blood draw took place an hour or two later, and we know that he did not have any alcohol at that time based upon the observation of the officers?
Yes, if no other alcohol was consumed, that would be a fair statement.
So at the time of you weren't here, but at 11:41, if that was the time of an accident that Mr. Lee was involved in, then his blood alcohol level would have been even greater at that point in time.
I can't say for certain. I can't perform that calculation.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any recross based on those questions, Mr. Lee?
No.
Okay, Ms. Wichterman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Greco, anything else from the people?
Yes, we do have one more witness.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dave, text her. Text her. They might have questions. Go ahead and text her first before she starts something else.
The officers outside.
No. The scientist that we just cut off.
Oh, okay. Well, let me show them.
Oh.
No, you just look at those and then we're going to discuss whether or not they should be asked.
All right, I just texted the witness to hang on. That's a great question.
Have her to just call back in. All right, I didn't ask for any commentary, Mr. Lee. I just asked you to look at them.
Oh.
I have no objection.
To any of them? All right, so I've got one piece of paper that seems to have three different questions, 1 and 2. So no objections to any of these questions?
One of them regarding the education. There is a resume that you will be able to observe.
Yeah, the degree at Villanova. All right. All right, so the other questions, Mr. Lee, you're okay with?
Well,
All right, and Mr. Greco, you're okay? All right, let her in.
My apologies.
Oh, no, it was my fault. I'm a creature of habit, and the jury had some questions, and I forgot to ask them if they had questions for you before I let you go. All right, so, all right, why is the temperature of the refrigerator at the lab important if it doesn't matter for the blood sample in the kit?
It's just a part of our best practice to keep it refrigerated. There's also a lot of other standards and chemicals that are kept in those refrigerators that it is important that they stay at that temperature.
All right, so the refrigerator is not just for the blood kits from MSP.
No, we have standards that our laboratory uses as well.
Okay. Okay. Can you describe in further detail how the instrument used detects alcohol in the blood?
Yes. So when we are preparing the sample, we take a small measured amount of blood and we put it into a short glass vial. That short glass vial is capped, and that is what is placed onto the instrument to be analyzed. The vial, once it's placed on the instrument, is heated up. Ethanol and other alcohols are volatile, meaning they want to be in their gas state when they're heated up. So as that vial is heated up, any alcohol in the sample is going to go into its gas state. And the instrument is going to take a small measured amount of the gas in the vial and run it through the instrument. As that gas goes through the instrument, it separates from being a mixture to the individual components. Those individual components are being the alcohols. They then come out of the instrument one at a time, and there's a detector that detects the alcohol coming out and the intensity of that alcohol coming out to give a measurement.
Thank you. And the studies you referred to regarding temperature, storage temperature of the blood sample, are those peer-reviewed and published within the last few years?
Yes, they are peer-reviewed. That was published in 2015.
Thank you. All right. Chew all that over. Did it leave anything unanswered? All right. And do either one of you have any questions for Ms. Wichterman based on those questions?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, you spoke about the temperature, heating up to the gas. Does the machine do that on its own, or do you handle that process yourself?
That's something the instrument does.
So, are you able to see whether it heats it up at the right temperature or not, or properly, or at the right levels while it's doing that, or how do you go about determining that?
There is a standard that is also added to each sample that we call an internal standard. That internal standard is how we monitor that that sample is being treated correctly in the instrument. It's added in a known amount, so we know what level we expect it to be reported for that internal standard, and we monitor it throughout the batch with each case to make sure that it is at the right level.
And that internal standard refers to you're measuring the
Ethanol?
the ethanol, the acetone, and methanol.
Yes, and isopropanol, and as well as the internal standard, which is N-propanol.
Right, and propanol. Right. So you know for certain, or you know, I'll say this, yes or no. And in this particular case, you took the time out to stop the testing and make sure that that's going it the right way.
We don't stop the test throughout the batch, no. That's something that's monitored by the instrument throughout the batch as it runs.
Or, I'm sorry, I said that before you were able to go in there and make sure that that was all functioning properly. And you did that, yes or no?
Yes, we make sure their instrument is functioning properly. We do that by running those calibrators, the controls in the negative.
Mr. Greco, any questions?
No further questions.
All right, now we're done with you, Ms. Wichterman. Thank you very much. Enjoy
Okay,
your
just
day.
call me back if not. Thank you.
Thank you. You're satisfied. We're satisfied. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Greco, you have one more witness?
Two.
You guys all right to keep working? Okay. All right.
Okay, Officer Trent Fields.
Watch your step on my incline ramp. Raise your right hand. Swear affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Have a seat. Settle in the chair. State your name one time state your name, and spell your last name.
My name is Trent Fields, Fields.
Continue, Mr. Greco.
Officer Fields, are you currently employed?
Yes.
And where are you currently employed?
Romulus Police Department,
And what is your position of employment there?
patrol officer,
And how long have you worked for the Romulus Police Department?
2 years.
Are we working on the evening of October 2023?
Yeah.
Do you recall being called to the scene of an accident?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time of the evening?
It was like 11:41 p.m.
And what do you recall about that evening?
I recall being called to a 2-car accident at the end, so going down Warren Chamberlain. I arrived on scene and I observed my partner, Officer Shaver, helping a male out of the driver's seat of the Ford Explorer.
And that accident occurred here in Romulus?
Yes.
Once you observed the driver and your officer with the driver, did you have any interaction with the driver of the Ford Explorer?
I did not speak with the driver, but when he was getting out of the vehicle, I was standing there while he was escorting him to an ambulance or to a firefighter to get him somehow for a possible.
And was that individual you observed get out of the vehicle in the courtroom today?
Yes,
Where is he?
he's right there.
Yeah, let the record
Noted.
be. Okay, once Mr. Lee identified as out of the vehicle, what did you do next with respect to your involvement on the scene?
At first, I went around to see if there were any witnesses that might have seen the crowd or anything like that. I eventually did a inventory search on the Ford Explorer, and we eventually talked to the other driver of the other vehicle, which was a Ford Fusion.
And was there any evidence of alcohol within Mr. Lee's vehicle? So you did an inventory of it?
Yes,
Okay. What evidence did you find of any?
I found a bottle of tequila on the passenger floor.
And was it empty?
No,
And did you?
yeah, it still has some fluid in it.
Okay. Did you do anything to see if it was alcohol, water, or anything like that?
I did not.
It was just what was it, a bottle? You said tequila?
Yeah, it was a bottle of tequila.
All right, I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as exhibit 1. Let's take a look at that. You can describe for the jury what that is.
Yes, this is the bottle of tequila that passenger floor.
And I think we already established that Officer Grishaber took that photograph, correct?
Yes,
Okay, where did you place that?
I placed it on the Explorer.
Were you wearing a body cam camera that day?
Yes,
Had it on at a certain time when you got this?
yes.
Your Honor, at this point in time, I'm going to play a portion. Officer Beatles.
Thank you.
And again, Your Honor, the video is about 35 minutes long. I'm going to advance for my purposes. So about the 11-minute mark.
Go ahead.
So at this point in time, Mr. Lee is with the ambulance.
Correct.
And this one's going to go on the side of the vehicle.
Correct.
The white that you thought that was the here.
Correct.
Now, does this look like you go to the passenger side of the vehicle? That the front passenger area again with the airbags deployed?
Correct.
Is that, you just see yourself getting a bottle?
Correct.
So I find it right there, is that a bottle of tequila?
Yes.
Okay. Heard sound, did that sound like you placing it on the hood?
Yes.
We don't see it yet. So that's the bottle of tequila that's in the photograph?
Correct.
And this is you placing it on the hood of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
That's on Mr. Lee's vehicle?
Correct.
On the Explorer that night?
Yes.
This is Officer Rick, taking the photograph, correct? Now it's exhibit 1, correct?
Correct.
So Officer, that was the bottle of tequila that had some fluid in it at the time you put it on the hood, correct?
Correct.
Is what we played on what you indicated was your body worn camera, does it accurately depict what's in the video that was displayed for that evening?
Yes.
That is when you got on the scene, I advanced it to the inventory you were taking of the vehicle, of the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to move for admission of Exhibit 5, body worn camera of Officer Trent.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, any objection to that coming in?
No.
Thank you.
I have no further question.
All right. Mr. Lee, do you have any questions for this officer?
Spring look. Couple. I don't remember you being there. When did you say you arrived?
Shortly after needed, shortly after my parent.
Okay, so, first off, why is your camera muted?
While I was muted,
I
probably.
heard it say unmuted.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. At that time, I believe we were gathering a plan on what we were gonna do, who was gonna go to the hospital to get your blood, or trying to do the blood test, who was gonna do the inventory searches of the car, who was gonna do the impound slips. There's a lot of things that go into accidents. That's what we were probably talking about.
Might do that.
I honestly don't know. I can't recall 2 years ago exactly what we were saying right there. But if I had to guess, it was probably some kind of game.
Okay, my things were with the vehicle when you searched it. Was there, I would say in your opinion, was there either another search done before that, or would it be fair for you to say that you don't know why my stuff was all over the car like that?
Well, you were just involved in an accident. It looked like it was a pretty good one too. I mean, your stuff's not gonna stay still in an accident.
Okay, so are you aware of any searches that any other officers did that day? Or are you aware that, or is it from your recollection that any other of the other officers performed a search on my vehicle
Like a prior inventory
prior
search,
to you coming?
prior to me coming on the scene? No, I don't.
So you were the first person to do the search?
Of your vehicle? No, I was not. You asked if I was the first to do it. If you asked if I did when I arrived on scene. I was not the first to look at your vehicle. No, I was not.
We're not, so are you saying that you weren't the first person to look through my vehicle after you arrived or before?
Before, I don't know if anyone did, but after I got on the scene, I was not the first one to look at it.
So who was the first?
I believe it was Officer Green.
So if Officer Green performed the search before you, how did he not find that bottle of tequila? I'm not saying you put it in there. I'm just saying, how did that not go? How you kind of missed that, or did you think he missed that?
I mean, he might have missed it. I mean, it's always good to have a new set of eyes when you are searching something. But he might have just missed it. I can't explain why he didn't find it.
So in other words, he possibly made a mistake and looked over that bottle that was in that car.
I guess it's possible.
Okay. Are you aware of how that bottle got in that car?
No, I just found it on the floor.
It's found, so you didn't witness either any operation of any vehicles. You didn't witness me driving a vehicle, you didn't witness the other person driving a vehicle, anything of that nature, Mr. Malcolm.
No, I didn't see you driving a vehicle.
So, and then after you perform the search, can you recall what your game plan was with the officers?
What I was doing?
I guess what you all would.
Yeah, so I believe Officer Shaver and I believe Kevin going to the hospital to speak with you at the hospital and get your blood draw or whatever was going on at the hospital. Me and my partner Green, we were doing the inventory searches and the impound slips, I believe, and waiting for the totals.
And did you speak with the other driver?
Yes, I did.
And so, did you make a police report?
No,
So you didn't have to make a police report doing and arriving on a scene of a crime or the scene of an accident?
no, because I was already going to be an officer for Shaver.
So you were allowed, and yes or no, you're allowed to interact with the crime scene, or you're allowed to interact with the people and ask questions and take statements, but you don't have to write a report as to your input on the matter in any way.
Well, not necessarily. If I go and speak to, like, assume that my partner officer, Shaver, went and already spoke with that driver. This was after, when we were just waiting on tows, I was just talking to the driver, having a normal conversation about what was going on and about where the cars were going. It wasn't anything criminal, it was just a conversation that we were having.
Yeah, I mean, I just asked that because your point, I guess, the key thing, well, I wouldn't say the key thing, because they got the blood test they did as well, but when you pulled that alcohol bottle out of that car, that was pretty much a key point that you would say in you all's investigation, am I correct?
Yes.
So who was in charge of making that documentation up? Who found that?
Well, it was an officer Shaver's report. He put in there that I was doing.
So he was the person to report you going inside of a car and grabbing. I mean, was he right? Was he standing there while you did it?
No, I called him over there after I found it, after I placed it on the hood to show him what I found. I told him where it was, so he could document that in the report.
Oh, any questions?
Any further? Officer, you can step down. Watch your step on the ramp. Anything else from the people?
No, Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
Okay. I haven't seen any other bodies today, so is it safe for me to assume that you don't have any witnesses to put on?
I mean, I didn't get the world off.
Yes or no? Do you have witnesses to put on? All right. Do you want to testify? I'm just trying to figure out timing.
No.
You don't? Okay. All right. So here's my question. We can probably, first of all, do you want him to go over any of that video with you to see if you want to present any of it? Did you get a chance to look at minutes of, portions of the video where you thought might be important for you? I'm not going to give you 2 hours to watch all of the video, but if you need a few more minutes with Mr. Greco's help to spot check that video, I'll give you that.
But I mean, I don't see anything in those videos that he has that, because there were multiple officers that I spoke with, there was multiple officers that were there, and there were multiple things that were said. That's why I wanted to.
Okay, my question to you is would it help you at all if I gave you and Mr. Greco, 15, 20 minutes or so to go through the videos?
Yeah.
Thank you. We're ready for closings then? Okay, Mr. Greco, when you're ready.
Thank you for being in the jury today. I think it's clear from the evidence. I'm not going to rehash everything because this isn't like the judge described for a while before we did jury selection, a week or two trials, and kind of concise everything together. But what you have here are the elements of the crime that the judge is going to read for you that the prosecution has met. Charged with operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated. First element is the operating motor vehicle. Seems clear that he was. He admits it to the officers. Number two is that he operated on a highway or other place open to the public. Again, it's obvious from the video, his statements, everything, that he was operating on the road that night. And third, was the defendant intoxicated? That is absolutely clear as well. Here at the report that was admitted into the evidence from the forensic scientist that he's a 0.125 grams of alcohol, which is above the 0.08
Bless you.
limit. The defendant has tried to talk about this said or that said at the accident scene. It makes no difference with respect to who was the cause of the accident. Just heard the other person that was interviewed by the police that time was indicating, it was hard to see that here, but that Mr. Lee had veered on his side of the road and he tried to avoid him. That's how they ended up into a crash. He obviously was upset, but not too upset. At that time, the officers, based upon the evidence, based upon the smelling of alcohol on Mr. Lee, based upon the fact that he admitted to having at least one beer that day, and also the open body of tequila in the vehicle, they felt that he was guilty, that they had probable cause to get a search warrant, and lo and behold, the search warrant, they get the blood test comes back, test is positive for alcohol and above the legal limit. I think when you consider all of the evidence that you've heard today, it's clear that you should enter a conviction of operating while intoxicated or guilty against Mr. Lee. And the same is true with the open bottle of alcohol
in the vehicle. Saw a video going through it, it's an open bottle of tequila, some left in it, and the bottom floorboard of the passenger area of the vehicle. You have the exhibits, for you to review. Thank you very much. I believe that's based upon the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Mr. Lee, your turn.
I'm not a lawyer. Once again, like I stated earlier, forced to do this myself. People might say otherwise. It's the truth. I literally was trying to get people to fight my case for me and fight arguments that I had. They wanted me to take plea deals, so because I didn't take plea deals, they told me to start saying that the last attorney that I had, they quit. Right in front of the judge, I brought him in. I said, "Can you state on record why you're quitting?" He couldn't come up with a reason. So that's just my thing. My thing of representing myself and collecting all the facts that I tried to collect. The fact of the matter is, we have me and God. We got to I said. He crashed into me. I didn't, that alcohol bottle, I don't know how it got in the car. That's simple. People might not believe that, but it's the truth. I didn't have an alcohol bottle. I literally pulled up the beer that I drank. I'm not able to admit it into evidence. So it's like, I don't know the rules and everything like this. But into this context, I've separated my defenses into sections. One of the sections is with no confession. I did confess to drinking alcohol. I said what I drank. Whether they believe it or not, that's up to them. But that's what I said. No witness operation. Regardless if they believe what I said was true or not. In any situation, if they arrive on the scene where there are two cars disabled, you never witnessed any operation. So it's simple. You didn't witness me operating a vehicle, and then you come up with this test. Okay, you're coming up with this calculation of this test. Like I said, there's some mishandling of that test, period. Somewhere down the line of taking the test or performing the test or whatever the case may be, I believe that there was mishandling on somebody's part, or it could have been a mechanical issue. Those things happen. You cannot leave that and just say that can't happen. You also cannot say that these people cannot, human mistakes, you cannot say that these people can't make mistakes. It's just, I mean, we heard testimonies being said that there, just certain people were unblemished. I don't even understand that concept. I don't believe it. Just like they don't believe what I say. I don't believe what they said. Members of the jury, once again, I'd like to thank you for your service today. Today was a case about numbers. Upwards of 90% of court cases in the U.S. get determined in plea deals, meaning that over 90% of the time, whether guilty or not guilty, defendants get persuaded to take plea deals. I don't know the reason why each of these defendants on a case-by-case basis does this, but I didn't choose to do so in this matter. I chose to fight my case because I know I'm innocent, and it is my right to not only have an impartial and unbiased jury, but to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond all reasonable doubt. I use the word a lot in my questioning today for a reason. That word was fair. The definition of reasonable is fair. And if you pull it up, you'll see. The word fair is in the definition of reasonable. And out of the mouths of the government officials, I can tell multiple questions. Out of the mouths of multiple government officials that handled this case, there are a lot of fair doubts and or a lot of reasonable doubts in this case. One of those reasonable doubts is, given the fact that there was no witness operation, you can't say that that there was any impaired driving on my part, whether you believe what I said or not. Another reasonable doubt is the fact that the blood alcohol levels are not concrete. They're not concrete. They are subjective to testing and handling of testing. Even regardless of the blood being mine or not, even if it was mine, a simple mishap, a simple mishandlement can change the integrity of the test, whether the prosecution wants to let you all know that or not. There's also a lot of footage in this video. We pulled up a lot of it. I think I said this at the end. There was a lot of video that wasn't able to be seen in this hearing because the prosecution had access to all of it. I got to go and I literally just seen this video today, and they showed me what they wanted to show me, and I took little bits and pieces out of it. Even though I told them I drank another reasonable doubt is the fact, even though I told them that I drank a non-alcoholic beer that day, which was the truth, they still chose to believe that I drank an alcoholic beverage. But even if that were the case, you don't know when the drinking took place, so you don't know if my body was being affected by alcohol or anything else, or if my levels were at a certain level or not. There were a bunch of ifs, and that is not suitable for a criminal case where you are trying to prove a defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm not coming with a crazy argument that I'm a sovereign citizen or that the laws don't apply to me or that I didn't drive at all. I'm saying, once again, that I didn't drink alcohol and I didn't cause the accident. The officers made mistakes that are obvious. One of those mistakes, they mischarged me with something that I never was charged with. And I wrote this while I was in here. And the excuse for that was, it was in good faith. While you're trying to accuse me of something and saying that something that I did was untrue, why do they get the opportunity to say that something that I did was untrue or something that I said was untrue? But when I bring up something that they did that was wrong, they can just say, oh, it was in good faith. Or if I say, oh, you made a mistake in this or that, well, I try my best to do it every time. It's like, you can't put yourself on this podium as to be this perfect person and then turn around and just put me like, oh, you are what we say you are. And what you say doesn't matter. There is a possibility that what I said could have happened. They weren't there to witness otherwise. So, my last point, there was a lot, these are vital. They also said I caused the accident, which is not true. These are vital mistakes in the case and should not be disregarded, especially when a bulk of this case and its results rely on the handlers not making mistakes. There is a lot in that arrest video that is not shown. One of those is that I told the officer I just wanted to go get medical treatment so I can get my son. I clearly said in the video I didn't drink anything. Earlier in my opening statement, I stated that I drank a Corona beer. Earlier that day, I pulled up. Wait a minute. No, I said I drank a Corona beer earlier that day. I pulled up the beer. I did that in here, but I can't admit it to you all. I can't show you all through my phone. I wish I would have had time. I would have brought beer in here to show you what I drank. That is a beer. That is one of the beers that me and my friends drink. We drink non-alcoholic Heineken beers and non-alcoholic Corona beers from time to time. These are for me and my friends that do not drink or smoke. I try my best to keep my shape and keep my health. This is why I chose not to drink alcohol. One of the other factors is the crime scene. Once again, regardless of what he's talking about, he was saying in the video, I chased him around the road. That's crazy. I literally, like I said, I was driving this way. You see the cars in the video. We were both on the side of the road. He said I chased him around and he went this way and I went that way. I literally was going straight down the road. He came this way. I veered over to the side and he came and smacked me. You'll see the damage of the the damage of the vehicles were right in those places. The placement of the vehicles were right in those places. I mean, I don't, they're just believing whatever he says. He also said that he was hurt. That just went away. Big video. He's literally moving around and doing all this stuff and talking crazy. And it's just, it's not believable. But to say that what I'm saying is it's not believable, it's not fair. It's not fair in a court of law. We gotta prove me innocent beyond a reasonable doubt. I was instructed that I couldn't give commentary during the video play, but you can see in the video that the cars, I was instructed that I couldn't give commentary during the video, but you can see in the video the cars on my side of the road. You also see that he's perfectly fine. But if you see earlier in the police encounter, he said that I chased him and this and that. He said, the prosecution said that that doesn't matter, none of that matters. That plays a lot into everything is being said, because this guy said I crashed into him. That's called impaired driving. He's saying I did some type of crazy driving. I did this. It's not true. It does matter. And if you see the earlier points of that night, he was doing all this lying, saying his hand was hurt and I crashed. And it's just everything that he said was a lie. You would have seen it if you would have seen all the video, but I wasn't able to get a hold of the video and dissect it for myself. My history plays a part. I'm 34 years old. I've never been convicted of DUI, regardless of what he said in his report. I never was convicted of DUI before I'm 34 years old. That should say enough about my work. I've been working since I was 13 years old, been paying taxes. I work as an armed security guard, different sites. I mean, I don't know, what people, when they see people, you might think, oh, he's in court, he's a criminal, or he's whatever you might think. I'm not a criminal. I go to work. I got 2 kids. I take care of kids that I even thought was mine that ends up not even being mine. I'm a good person. That's accounting for something. I have never been convicted of DUI because I don't drive drunk. So this is a crazy situation, a lot of crazy facts, but at the end of the day, there is no concrete evidence to convict me beyond reasonable doubt. And as far as that bottle, once again, you didn't pull me over. I didn't. That has to be convicted. Operating a car with a bottle, open bottle in a car. They didn't pull me over. If they would pull me over and I had a bottle of liquor in the car, then you would be able to say, "Hey, you had that bottle in the car. They pulled you over." But for them to arrive on the scene, all this stuff is going on. You see that those people that were with him wasn't there with him when it first happened. It's just him. That's why you got him standing there trying to talk to that guy while the officer there trying to put on a show, saying, "Oh yeah, this is what happened," because that guy wasn't there. He did all these calls. He made all these calls, but he never called the police. Just like I said in my opening statement, you see that in that part of the video. He never called the police. So it's like you say all this stuff, but why didn't you call the police? Why did somebody else have to call the police, like the officer stated? Somebody bystander came and called the police and said that it happened. So it's so much, like I said, that you didn't put in your minds to say reasonable doubt. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Greco.
Briefly, the police didn't call the police. Regardless of all of the things that you're hearing about from the defense, about throwing stuff out there, this is a very simple case, right? Reasonable doubt is not about what's possible. It's about what's reasonable for you to consider. And reasonable doubt based upon your common experience and the evidence that is presented to you today. And based upon the evidence that you have today, you have more than enough beyond a reasonable doubt to convict Mr. Lee of operating while intoxicated. Just a couple of things to clear up in your mind, because I've had experience with jurors and all the things that they think about with things that were said, okay? And we're giving Mr. Lee a little bit of leeway. With respect to the discovery, the reports, and all of the videos, they were emailed to Mr. Lee's attorney on October 7th. When he terminated that attorney, they were emailed directly to Mr. Lee on November 21st, then emailed again on April 4th, and then via email by me on the emails that he's been sending me, I offered, if he was having trouble opening the link, that on 2 o'clock this past Friday, there was a zip drive, thumb drive at the front desk of the police department for him to come and get the videos. Despite all of that, during this time, we gave him an opportunity to look at more fully some of the videos, and he wanted to play it for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why. All it does is give the other driver's account of what happened, which this is not about. There was a car accident that was there. He was not cited for any reckless driving or going across the other lane because there was no witnesses to it. All we had was an accident with one driver who appeared to be intoxicated, not guilty of it, but based upon probable cause, these officers were able to get a search warrant and show that there was an unlawful bodily alcohol content in Mr. Lee's body that night while he was operating the vehicle. Thank you, Barry.
Ms. Coleman, could you share the verdict of the jury with the courtroom?
Count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Lee, I'm going to send you downstairs now. I don't know, there should be somebody there.
Yeah, they should.
I'm going to send you downstairs to talk to the probation department. They'll schedule for you to come back and be interviewed by a probation officer. They'll also schedule you to come back for a sentencing date. Based on that interview, the probation officer is going to prepare a report and recommendation for sentencing. You'll get a chance to look at that. When you come back, you and I will have a discussion. We can talk about that report, anything else you want to talk about. And at that point, I'm going to determine what the sentencing should be. Do you understand the process from here? Yes? Okay. Now, as to the contempt of court charge, I'm going to give you credit for the time you spent in courtroom today and not require any more jail time on that. Do you understand that? Do you have any questions about any of the process? Absolutely. You got 21 days. All right. Anything else? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.